Good afternoon. This is Pam with Follow Your Brush, and I'm so glad you're here. I am a watercolor adventurist, explorist, love to just play with all things watercolor. And today I'm here to answer some questions because you asked. So I'm giving some answers. Welcome to those of you who have never been here before, and I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to answer this question that was given to me by one of my members in my Facebook group, also entitled Follow Your Brush. And you're welcome to join us over there as well. It's for all type of creative projects. Doesn't have to be watercolor. But I had a question. I did a report the other day on the Famui paper, which I have been actually enjoying and doing some work that I've had fun with, and it's come out pretty well, in my opinion. There's a new one that I did the other day. And so someone asked me the question, we're talking about 140 pound, 300 GSM, 100% cotton paper. So one of my members asked me the question if I would check out this particular brand, KOVIEDE. I'm not sure how they pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. But it is 100% cotton. It is 300 GSM, and it's 140 pounds, 5.5 by 8.5 inches. So I said yes. It came in a pack of 3 from Amazon and was not expensive for all 3. I don't remember the price right offhand, so I don't want to give you the wrong price, but it was 3 journals, 3 of these books. And they're perforated, and it's on a wire binder, which I like. But as soon as I started to paint with them, this is my first page, when I first got it, immediately I was like, no, I'm sorry. It may say, the details may say 140 pound, 300 GSM, watercolor paper, 100% cotton, but it does not do what I would like it to do. Now, as you get into watercolor, you'll discover that there are ways that you like to paint, and often people say they will practice on less expensive paper, but you really kind of do yourself a disservice because you're kind of fighting with the paper, we call it. And that's how I felt with this particular brand. I felt like I was fighting the paper. And I'll explain to you why. I mean, it looks pretty. It looks pretty dried, right? It's kind of a pretty page. But if you'll notice, some things are streaky. Some areas dried. And it didn't blend well. So let's talk about this and why I don't care for it personally. I often do these trees, I do them in other pages and other books too. So I just tried to play, and it just kind of comes out flat. The paint, I don't think, dries well. It dries too quickly. It doesn't absorb well. And here's a wet on wet page. And to me, this is just totally unacceptable for a wet on wet page. When you do wet on wet, the colors should blend into one another. They should flow well, and the paper should absorb the water. And you can see that this sort of kind of did, but not really. And then this should not have had this big bloom here. That was supposed to be a color, and it just didn't work. And so that's how it dried. Then I tried another tree. I tried some other things, tried lifting. And I just still not happy. So it's not just about the paper and how it goes down, but it's how it dries as well. And you can see with this paper, the thickness is about the same as it would be with another watercolor workbook with the 140 pound. That's not that different. It's not, that's about the same. But I don't know if you can see the texture. This is super, super textured. You can see the texture in the paper. And that's fine if it absorbs your paint and does not show through when it dries. And this just didn't. It just didn't dry well. It dries streaky. This was another wet on wet. And it just didn't, the colors did not blend and flow like I would want them to do. And here's some other colors I did last night. And again, you can see how it dried streaky. It did not really give me a good good result. And then this was wet on wet. I put the drops to see how they would whoosh, what we call whoosh with the wet on wet paper. And it just didn't perform well. Now, I'm not going to throw this paper out. I believe, you know, I'm not going to return my purchase. I don't think that's necessary. What I will do is I'll use these maybe for little swatch cards, or not really for artwork, but just to keep track. Like if I want to just do some swatches, I think wet on dry paper, it comes out better than wet on wet. Let me just do some colors here and show you. This is a palette of colors that I have. This is also kind of a compact setup because, you know, I like to do that. But these are some pretty colors. These are all from Daniel Smith, and this is my palette that I use of colors that have been suggested by Buffy Kaufman. This is a Rose of Ultramarine. Let me get this wet a little bit. So if I do just a wet on dry, but look, you can see, I think you can see, let's see if I'm in the camera. We should be able to see this, that the texture, see how the texture shows through the paper? That's not really something that I want. I want it to dry more evenly. So it's not doing that. Here's, for example, here's the same colors that I did on my Arche travel journal. Same colors, but you can see how the paper absorbed it better. They dried better. They dried more uniformly. And the wet on wet, they blended. The colors blended well. Since we're talking about it, let's just show the difference here. And let me show you how it does just the wet on wet on the Arche paper. See, it just does, it has a different feel to it. And we compare that to this one. I might be out of the camera because I zoomed in. Hopefully I'm not. See how you can see the textures on there. But I think as far as if I were doing just like a color sample, like or like a little swatch card in a palette, just doing a little bit of wet on dry, it might not do badly. But so there is a difference, and the difference comes in the sizing. It comes in the way that it's made. I've actually gotten some paper that was supposed to be cold press, and the water just sat there. It did not absorb into the page. It just kind of sat there. And it was cold press, 140 pound, the whole nine, but it just didn't work. And so that's answers that question. You kind of have to play with them and get familiar with how you like to paint. And there's nothing wrong with this sketchbook as far as if you wanted to use this for multimedia, if you wanted multimedium, if you wanted to, you know, do other things with it. I don't think it would give you a good texture for pencils because it's so rough. If you like that rough texture and that's what you want, you know, go for it. But I just wasn't happy in comparison to my better paper. And even when I tested it against my Famui paper, the Famui responded better as well. This particular spot right here that dried, that is from the Quinn Gold, and it just kind of sucks up the paper and it dried it out. That's what the paint does, not necessarily the paper, on any paper. So that's to answer that question. You asked for a review. My opinion is might be less expensive, and even though it says marks all the spots, I wouldn't really use it unless I'm just doing it for sketching or something else that doesn't really require the wet on wet, which I like to do, and the soft edges. That just didn't really float my boat. So there you go. Thank you for asking. And that's my opinion on that one. And if some of you have other questions, please feel free to ask, and I will do it to the best of my ability. And thanks for asking. Talk to you later. Bye.